Most people are slaves to their own moods. They work when they feel like it, and they quit the second things get uncomfortable. This is why they stay stuck. If you want a life of true power, you have to stop negotiating with your own laziness. Today, we are breaking down the 7 daily Stoic principles that will forge a level of discipline the world cannot shake. This is about ending the war with yourself and finally taking command of your destiny. If you are ready to choose virtue over chaos, pay close attention. We are starting right now. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Offense. We have all encountered them. The people who seem to draw their energy from bringing others down. They throw subtle insults, make passive-aggressive comments, or openly try to humiliate you. You leave the interaction feeling drained, angry, and defensive. You spend hours replaying the conversation in your head, thinking of all the perfect responses you could have said. This is the exact cycle that toxic individuals rely on. They want to set up camp in your mind and control your emotional state from afar. But ancient Stoic philosophy offers a completely different way to approach this problem. It offers a single, profound shift in mindset that, once you make it, guarantees that a toxic person can never truly disrespect you again. To understand this, we must first look at a man who understood disrespect better than anyone else in history. Epictetus was a prominent Stoic philosopher, but he did not begin his life as a wealthy nobleman or an emperor. He was born a slave in the Roman Empire. His master was a notoriously cruel man named Epaphroditus. According to historical accounts, Epaphroditus once tortured Epictetus by twisting his leg. Epictetus did not scream or beg. He simply looked at his master and calmly stated that if he kept twisting, the leg would break. When the leg finally snapped, Epictetus did not show anger. He simply said, "I told you it would break." Epictetus lived the rest of his life with a physical disability because of this event. Why is this story important? Because Epictetus realized a fundamental truth about human interaction. He realized that another person can chain your body, they can injure your physical form, and they can hurl terrible words at you. But they absolutely cannot force your mind to feel insulted. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb people, but the judgments they form about those events. When a toxic person disrespects you, they are essentially handing you a gift wrapped in ugly paper. The gift is an insult, but an insult only becomes real if you choose to accept it. If someone hands you something and you refuse to take it, who does the object belong to? It belongs to the person who tried to give it. When you react with anger, when you defend yourself, or when you show that you are hurt, you are reaching out and accepting the insult. You are telling the toxic person that their words have value and that they have power over you. The single thing you must do to stop their disrespect forever is to simply refuse the delivery. You look at their words as noise. You look at their actions as the flailing of a confused mind. You do not let their toxicity pass through the gates of your own mind. This is not about pretending you are not hurt. It is about fundamentally realizing that their words have no actual power to harm your character or your worth. Chapter 2. The Fortress of the Mind. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on the face of the earth during his reign. He commanded vast armies and held the lives of millions in his hands. Yet, if you read his private journals, which we now call meditations, you will find that he constantly struggled with the exact same thing we do today. He struggled with annoying, toxic, and disrespectful people. When you are the emperor, you are surrounded by people who want to manipulate you, lie to you, and drag you down to their level. Marcus Aurelius developed a daily mental exercise to build a fortress around his mind. He wrote to himself every single morning, reminding himself that he would inevitably meet people who were arrogant, ungrateful, and jealous. He told himself that these people acted this way because they could not tell the difference between good and evil. They were blind to what truly mattered in life. By preparing himself for toxicity before he even stepped out of his bed, Marcus Aurelius removed the element of surprise. Think about how a toxic person operates. Their entire strategy relies on catching you off guard. They want to shock you into an emotional reaction. They wait for a moment of vulnerability, and then they strike. But if you have already built your mental fortress, their attack fails completely. When someone disrespects you, your internal response should not be shock or outrage. Your internal response should be a quiet acknowledgement. You say to yourself, here is the behavior I expected. Here is a person acting exactly according to their flawed nature. By expecting toxic behavior, you strip away its power to wound you. You stop demanding that the world be fair, and you stop expecting broken people to act with honor. You accept that bad behavior exists in the world, just like rain or wind. You do not yell at the rain for making you wet. You simply open an umbrella and keep walking. Your mind becomes a fortress. The insults and disrespect bounce off the thick walls of your rational thinking. You realize that their behavior is a reflection of their internal misery, not a reflection of your value. Chapter 3. The Power of the Pause. There is a fraction of a second between the moment a toxic person disrespects you and the moment you react. In that tiny sliver of time, your entire biological system wants to fight back. Your heart rate increases, your adrenaline spikes, and your brain searches for a quick, sharp retort to cut them down. This is the trap. The moment you enter the mud to wrestle with a toxic person, you have already lost. They are experienced at fighting in the mud, and they enjoy it. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, was an advisor to the Emperor Nero. Nero was one of the most tyrannical, unhinged, and dangerous rulers in Roman history. Surviving in Nero's court required absolute emotional control. Seneca wrote extensively about the destructive nature of anger. He argued that anger is a temporary madness. When you respond to disrespect with anger, you abandon your reason and hand the steering wheel over to your raw emotions. You become exactly what the toxic person wants you to be, unstable and easily controlled. The greatest weapon you have against disrespect is the pause. When the insult lands, you do absolutely nothing. You do not flinch. You do not frown. You do not immediately speak. You simply look at the person and let a deep, heavy silence fall over the room. This pause does three very important things. First, it stops your own nervous system from hijacking your brain. It gives your rational mind time to catch up and take control of the situation. Second, it creates an incredibly uncomfortable environment for the toxic person. They threw out bait, expecting a quick bite, and instead, they are met with a void. Third, the pause shows absolute dominance over yourself. Toxic people are used to controlling others through emotional triggers. When they pull your trigger and the gun does not fire, they are left confused and powerless. They realize they have encountered someone whose internal state is not dependent on their external behavior. This simple act of delaying your response, of taking a slow, deep breath before you choose your next move, is the cornerstone of Stoic resilience. It transforms you from a reactionary victim into an active commander of your own life. Chapter 4. The Weapon of Silence. If you want to ensure that a toxic person never disrespects you again, you must learn how to weaponize silence. We live in a world that tells us we must always defend ourselves, that we must always have the last word, and that we must always set the record straight. Stoicism teaches the exact opposite. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Consider the story of Cato the Younger, a famous Roman statesman and a deeply committed Stoic. Cato was walking through the streets of Rome one day when a man who disagreed with Cato's politics walked up and spat directly in his face. In ancient Rome, this was an insult that usually resulted in physical violence or a duel to the death. The crowd gasped, waiting to see how Cato would destroy the man. Cato calmly wiped the spit from his face and continued walking as if absolutely nothing had happened. He did not yell. He did not strike back. He simply erased the man from his reality. When asked later why he did not retaliate, Cato explained that he would not grant the man the satisfaction of acknowledging his existence. To fight back would be to admit that the man was his equal. By ignoring him completely, Cato demonstrated that the man was so far beneath his notice that his insults did not even register as a human action. When dealing with a toxic coworker, a manipulative family member, or a disrespectful acquaintance, silence is your shield and your sword. When they make a snide comment, let the silence hang in the air. Look at them calmly, as if you are observing a strange biological specimen, and then turn your attention back to whatever you were doing. Do not explain yourself. Do not ask them what they meant. Just let their words evaporate into the silence. Toxic people crave attention. They crave drama. They want you to engage. When you give them absolute, unbothered silence, you starve them of the very oxygen they need to survive. They will eventually look for an easier target, because your lack of reaction makes them feel foolish and small. Chapter 5. Radical Acceptance of Human Nature. To completely insulate yourself from disrespect, you must change how you view the person delivering it. We get angry when people disrespect us because we believe they should know better. We believe they should act with kindness, logic, and fairness. But Stoicism asks us to look at reality without our rose-colored glasses. The reality is that many people are deeply damaged. They are driven by insecurity, fear, jealousy, and past traumas. The Stoics believe that human beings are naturally designed to work together, like rows of teeth or the fingers on a hand. When someone acts out with toxicity and disrespect, they are acting against human nature. They are essentially suffering from a sickness of the soul. Just as you would not get violently angry at a person who is vomiting because they have a physical illness, you should not get violently angry at a person who is spewing disrespect because they have a mental or spiritual illness. Socrates, the philosopher who heavily influenced the Stoics, was constantly mocked and ridiculed by the people of Athens. Playwrights wrote comedies making fun of him. People insulted him in the public square. Socrates never lost his temper. He argued that people do bad things because they are ignorant of what is truly good. They mistakenly believe that putting others down will elevate themselves. They are confused about how the world works. When a toxic person tries to disrespect you, look at them with a sense of clinical detachment. See them not as a powerful enemy trying to destroy you, but as a deeply flawed human being who is enslaved by their own negative emotions. When you shift your perspective from anger to objective observation, the disrespect loses its sting. You realize that their behavior has absolutely nothing to do with you, and everything to do with their own miserable internal state. They are simply projecting their own chaos onto the world. You do not need to absorb their chaos. You can stand firmly in your own peace and watch them struggle with their demons from a safe distance. Chapter 6. The Unshakable Boundary. There is a common misunderstanding that practicing Stoicism means becoming a passive punching bag. People think that if you do not react to disrespect, you must simply accept abuse. This is completely false. Stoicism is about taking rational, effective action while maintaining your emotional tranquility. Once you have mastered your internal reaction, you must then establish your external boundaries. Doing this once and doing it correctly is what forces a toxic person to change their behavior toward you permanently. You do not set a boundary by screaming, crying, or begging the person to treat you better. You set a boundary by stating a fact. Let us say a toxic coworker constantly talks over you in meetings and makes belittling jokes. You do not respond in the meeting with anger. You wait until the meeting is over. You approach them calmly, with a completely neutral expression and a steady voice. You look them directly in the eye and you say exactly what is going to happen. You tell them that you will no longer tolerate being interrupted, and if they continue to make disrespectful comments, you will simply walk out of the room or end the conversation immediately. You do not wait for their agreement. You do not debate them. You state your terms and you walk away. The most important part of this is the enforcement. A boundary without enforcement is just a suggestion. The next time they cross the line, you must follow through with absolute mechanical precision. You stand up, gather your things, and walk away. You do not show anger. You show cold, rational action. This terrifies a toxic person. They are used to people who complain but never take action. When they encounter someone who calmly states a rule and then ruthlessly enforces it without breaking a sweat, they realize they have hit a brick wall. They learn very quickly that their normal tactics of manipulation and disrespect will not work on you. You have fundamentally rewritten the rules of the engagement, and you have done it without ever raising your voice. Chapter 7. Living Well as the Ultimate Countermove. Ultimately, the most profound Stoic defense against toxic people is to render them completely irrelevant to your life's mission. Toxic people want to pull you off your path. They want you to spend your time and energy obsessing over their words and plotting your revenge. If you spend your days trying to figure out how to get back at them, they have won. They have successfully stolen your most valuable resource, which is your time. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. You defeat a toxic person not by destroying them, but by elevating yourself so far above them that their actions no longer reach you. You focus entirely on building your own character. You focus on your work, your discipline, your physical health, and your intellectual growth. You become so consumed with living a virtuous and excellent life that the petty drama of toxic individuals seems laughable to you. When a toxic person sees that their disrespect has not slowed you down, has not broken your spirit, and has not distracted you from your goals, they experience the ultimate defeat. They realize they are entirely insignificant to you. Your success, your calm demeanor, and your unwavering focus are the loudest answers you can possibly give to their disrespect. You do not need to prove your worth to them. You prove your worth to yourself every single day through your actions. To do this once and never be disrespected again is a matter of shifting your entire center of gravity. You move your center of gravity out of the opinions of others and anchor it deep within your own soul. You decide, right now, that no external force will dictate your internal weather. Let the toxic people play their games in the dirt. Let them gossip, scheme, and throw their insults. You have a fortress to build. You have a mind to master. Step away from their noise, walk forward into your own potential, and leave them behind in the silence.